My name is Belinda Yates, Fredericksburg, Virginia. I'm a victim of criminal court corruption.
What happened to you, Belinda?
Well, what happened to me was I became a victim on October 6, 2011. My rights were violated that day. I was at court on October the 6th, 2011 for my nephew in support for some charges he's facing in Stafford County. He took a plea that day. After the plea was taken, we all went outside of the courthouse. I was with my mother, my nephew, Antonio's girlfriend, and some other folks, and we were waiting for my sister Sherry, who's always late. We were waiting for her to show up, and we decided that we would sit at a bench right in front of the courthouse in the complex. As we waited, there were some individuals at the top of the steps, and there was four young ladies at the top of the stairs, and they were just standing there, didn't know who they were. My mother needed to go to the restroom and remove a wig that she was wearing that day, bad hair day. She came back out, and she came down the steps, and we were talking, just sitting there waiting for my sister to show up. These ladies come down the steps and make comments, and the comments they made were something to the effect of your kids are murderers. And I was like, what are you talking about? Who are you? Kind of is what I was thinking, like, okay. And my mom said, you're here wearing gang colors, green and black, and her mother made a statement to my mother like that's her favorite color or something like that. Well, I thought that my mom was going to get in an argument with this lady, so I stood in between my mother and this lady that was there, and she kind of bumped me with her chest, and we're standing there and we're chest to chest, and she's yelling at me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And her daughter's on the left-hand side of her, and her daughter starts yelling, your kids are murderers, they deserve everything they get, or whatever. And she was pointing her finger in my face, and I said, please do not point your finger in my face. And I turned back the focus to her mother, who was still chest to chest with me. As soon as I looked at her mother, I got punched in the left-hand side of my face. And I was wearing heels and a suit, and I had my purse, and I lost my balance. And as I was composing myself, I could hear my sister Sherry, who says, Belinda, don't hit her back. We're going to go get help. So that's what we did. We went back towards the courthouse, and the young lady who punched me, her and her mother went down the court steps into the parking lot. And as soon as I was going towards the courthouse steps to go up and get help, an officer came down to meet me at the bottom of the steps, and he said to me, are you okay? And by him saying to me, are you okay, I felt like he saw what happened. I said, I'm okay. Is my face red? He said, yes. And he said, do you want to press charges? Which way did they go? And I pointed, and he went running. Well, not only did he go running, but the Commonwealth attorney who's been prosecuting my son's case and my nephew Antonio's case also went running, and they all went down to the bottom of the steps that led to the parking lot. and had a discussion, and I don't know what they were saying. I just was waiting for them to arrest her for assaulting me, and that never happened. What did happen was I got arrested for assaulting her. I never laid a hand on her. When I asked the officer who was arresting me, why am I being arrested? I was told that there's a third-party witness who saw what happened, and that's why you're being placed under arrest. I was in shock, and I said, okay, I complied, and, went to the magistrate's office. The magistrate let me go, and I was charged with two misdemeanors, I believe. One was obstruction of justice, intimidation of a witness, and the other one was assault. So at this time, the magistrate let me go. I was told that I needed to get fingerprinted at the police department. So I went back in the cruiser with the officer to get fingerprinted. While I was there, the officer received a phone call. And I was maybe 10 feet away from the officer, sitting, waiting for him to put the screen up so that I could be fingerprinted. And I could hear somebody's voice shouting across the telephone. Well, he walked out of the room and went outside, and he was out there maybe 5 minutes. He came back in and he said, Ms. Yates, I have some bad news for you. And I said, what's that? He said, well, I charged you wrong, so we need to go back before the magistrate and I need to recharge you. And I said, okay. So we went back before the magistrate. They changed the misdemeanor obstruction charge to a felony obstruction charge. And being that I don't have a record, the magistrate said, okay, uncuff her, let her go. And the officer said, well, I was told to tell you at the direction of the Commonwealth Attorney, Mr. Peterson, that she needs to be remanded and held without bond. And that's what happened. I was held without bond. It was a 3-day weekend. I went before the judge that Monday morning, and they didn't release me. I was given no bond. I wasn't even heard, just no bond. And the Commonwealth Attorney, I could hear him speaking and saying that this is a gang case, and that I intimidated a witness, and all this stuff. And I went back to the cell and I cried, and I called my family and told them what happened. And my sister Sherry got me a lawyer to conduct another bond hearing. The next bond hearing was about a week later. No bond again. At this point, I couldn't comprehend what was happening because I didn't do anything. So I just sucked it up, and I eventually got another bond hearing in circuit court on October 21st, and that bond was granted, and it was a $15,000 bond, and I got out of jail that day. I got out of jail that day, but none of this went away. I had to go to court, and I had a what do you call it? I'm sorry.
I don't know what you're searching for. Hearing?
Yeah, it's the first hearing when stuff happens to you, where you get appointed an attorney if you can't afford one.
Arraignment?
Arraignment, yes. I'm sorry. I had an arraignment, and I had been in jail for 2.5 weeks. I have my own cleaning company, so I wasn't working. They had to appoint me an attorney. Well, the attorney that they chose to appoint me, her name is Miss Denise Rafferty. I got a phone call from her somewhere around December 19th or so, before court. And my conversation with her was what had happened to me. She wasn't interested in what happened to me. She wasn't interested that I was innocent. She wasn't interested in anything. The only thing she was interested in is that, Belinda, you need to take a plea. Her exact words were, it's like someone putting a pillow over your face, and the more you resist, the more they're going to hold that pillow in place. She didn't care if I was innocent or not. I told her repeatedly, there was cameras in front of the courthouse. I told her exactly what took place, and she wasn't interested in any of that. The only thing she was interested in is me taking a plea. In her friendship with the Commonwealth attorney, Mr. Peterson, that she would assure me that I would get no jail time. So that bothered me. I was scared. I have children at home, younger children. I have a 14-year-old son. I have a 10-year-old son. I have a daughter who she was 18 at the time, and my son Kendrick, who is 22, who has been locked up 1 year as of today, behind the blatant abuse of authority that this Commonwealth attorney who came after me has been repeatedly exercising against my family. I had another conversation with Miss Rafferty a week later after the first one, and that conversation went a little like this. She said to me, Belinda, I need you to wrap your mind around what's taking place. I need you to, I don't want any drama. I want you just to realize that you have to take some responsibility for what has happened to you. And my response was, take responsibility for what? Being hit? I don't understand. Being assaulted? I didn't do that. I didn't do it. And she said, well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Belinda. Your attitude right now is not going to get you anywhere. She said something to the effect of, I don't know if you think that you can walk away from all these charges, that's not going to happen, kind of thing. Again, she wasn't interested in me being innocent. She was only interested in me taking a plea. She said that she was almost positive that she can get me no jail time. She wasn't sure if Mr. Peterson would drop the felony, but that I would get no jail time. And I kind of just baited her more or less, into this speaking, because I was recording her the whole time, of course. And I filed suit against her, malpractice suit, so that she cannot represent me on those charges because she didn't have my best interest at hand. I was appointed a new attorney, and on May 23rd, 2012, I was acquitted of all my charges. But my life is still not the same. I don't know what else to say right now.
You can't possibly have a 22-year-old.
Yes, I do.
You're entirely too young for that.
Thank you. I have good genes.
I guess so. Had you ever been convicted of a crime before?
No, I've never been convicted of a crime. Never.
Did you have a full trial when you were acquitted?
I had a full trial. The obstruction charges, my attorney asked for those to be, have those stricken from the stricken, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really good at this court jargon. Yeah, he made them go away. And then I was tried by the jury for the assault. And the jury saw right through. And I was acquitted.
How happy were you to have a jury as opposed to having a judge make the decision?
Well, I was nervous either way. You know, I was really nervous. I was praying that, you know, that they would see the truth, and they did.
What was the racial makeup of the jury?
Well, it was a jury, well, I won't say they were my peers, but they were a little older than me. But there was 2 African-American juries. The rest were Caucasian, and they just saw through everything. You know, they saw through, they heard the inconsistent statements that were made on the stand, and you know, the ball was in my court. I was innocent before this even, you know, all this took place, and you know, I will maintain my innocence, and I will continue to stand up. I will continue to voice my opinions. I will continue to carry this out as far as it needs to go. My son and my nephew are incarcerated right now behind the same things, you know, just misuse of, you know, of authority. You know, they're in there for no reason, and they will walk out. They will walk out, and I know they will.
How mad are you?
Mad. I am very mad. I am mad at the things that you learn in school, the rights that you think that you have. You don't have those rights. You know, I before this happened, I never would have thought anything like this could happen to somebody like me, ever. You know, we're told that we have rights. And we're told that as early as junior high. You know, I remember, history, you know, about our rights, our civil rights. You know, I can't believe it. I still can't believe it, but it happened to me. So it could happen to anybody.
You are a walking soundbite. You've been given great stuff that ties into points that are going to be made by the movie. So, golly, I'm so delighted, as you need to say you are, about being acquitted.
Yeah.
A lot of the stories that I've done so far have involved racism, and people weren't acquitted.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that they were innocent. I saw enough proof from everybody but one, and I'm sure he was the most innocent. You know, it was his word against a
Right.
non-existent witness.
Right.
There was no one there, and they made up a witness. And what can be done? What do you want other mothers who are out there who you've just warned, this could happen to you, it happened to me, I've never been involved in anything like this, and I'm fingerprinted and mugshot, and I can't get bail?
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
What do you want to say to others? What should they be worried about? What should they do?
Well, what I'd like to say to others is don't be so naive. You know, you hear people all the time saying, I'm innocent. Well, it might be that they really are innocent. You know, research. Don't believe everything that you hear. Research for yourself. Teach your children about their rights. The rights that we've learned in school, we need to exercise those rights. You know, freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech. I was arrested falsely. I was imprisoned. My life has not been the same since all this has happened to me. My kids, whenever I leave the house, they're like, Mom, where are you going? You know, they're more interested in, Mom, where are you going? You know, be careful, answer your cell phone, you know, that kind of thing. I was separated from my children for 2.5 weeks. It seemed like 2.5 years. Just wake up, America, you know. It could happen to you. Be more informed.
You call them ladies, the women
Mm-hmm.
who were at the top of the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a racial? I don't want to make a racial issue if it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it was racial. It was racial in the fact that the women that were standing at the top of the stairs were Caucasian women. I'm African American, as you can see. I said, and I maintained that day, there was an article in the newspaper. The last sentences of that article were Miss Yates said she was the one that assaulted, but for some reason no one believed her. You know, they took this to a whole nother level.
has anything been done to the woman who falsely accused you and obviously committed perjury? Did she
Nothing.
lie on the stand?
She lied on the stand. Nothing has happened to these women. I will tell you, I did go to the magistrate's office to file charges against these two young women, and nothing has come about of the charges that I have filed against them. I went to the Stafford Sheriff's Office on numerous occasions to find out what's being done. Nothing's being done. I always get the runaround and everything else. But whether charges get brought up against them or not, that's not my concern anymore. You know, I did what I had to do, and I was acquitted of my charges. They have to answer to God. You know, it's bigger than me. You know, they have to answer to God, and they will.
Do you still have your clean business, or did it get damaged in the process?
Well, I still have my cleaning business. I'm not as active as I was before. I'd rather not come out of my house. I'd rather deal with my family and my circle of friends, and everything else is more of a distraction to me. I know I sit here, you know, but I go through my days. I go through my days where I cry. I go through my days where, you know, I ask God, why is this happening to my family? Why is this happening? I have a long road to go down. You know, I need counseling. It's affected a lot. You know, I'm not the same person that I was before this all took place.
Well, you're just as sweet.
Thank you.
What haven't we talked about that you'd like to talk about?
Just that for anybody that can hear my voice or see me, you know, if things are happening around you that aren't right, speak out. Speak out about it. Let people know. There's people out there who are set in place to hear things. Your senators, the ACLU. There's people everywhere. You know, Google it. There's people out there to help. Get help. Find out what's going on. Be more aware in your community. That's all I can say.
How important is tape recording?
Tape recording is so important. Without it, all you have is your word. But with it, you reveal a whole lot more, you know. It's a weapon.
Tape recorder, video recorder. I've also got glasses that have a camera in them.
Wow.
Press the temple. It's got 64 gigabytes
Wow.
stored in the. It's like Clark Gable glasses. You know, those kind of thick black ones.
Wow.
They're around here somewhere.
We've actually looked at the watches.
So I'm definitely going to be using these on Wednesday down on Capitol Hill, where I'm sure they won't accept a camera in, but they accept watches and glasses. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's another story that comes before what happened to me that had to do with the Commonwealth attorney. I don't know if you would be interested in hearing that, but
Sure.
okay. Should I just
Jump
right in?
Bring the food
Okay.
I brought food.
Did you? Sure, bring it in. We're running way behind. I hope you're okay.
No, it's fine. I'm supposed to film tomorrow, and I'm bringing a couple girls with me tonight when they get off work.
Oh, awesome.
But I'm going to set up food over here. Just
Oh,
let
you're
them
so
enjoy
sweet.
it.
No, thank
Sure,
you.
sure.
What type of court case is yours?
A life case.
A
I
life
fled
imprisonment?
when I was 7. At 13, incest began at 7. And the system failed me since then.
Oh.
Now, when I call the police, they go by my past.
Oh, because you're the victim, they go.
Yes.
Yeah, now, was it a brother or a dad, or you don't?
My
know what you
grandfather.
said? Oh, man,
I was sent to prison. I got a 10-year sentence.
For being a victim of that, did he get any prison, or they give him a gold
No,
medal?
they said they could cut his social security check.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a long.
All right, you got another story. The floor is yours.
Yes. On June 29th, 2011, I was at the Stafford County Courthouse. I was asked to come there on this day, myself as well as my sister. My nephew, who was 15 at the time, was also with my sister and I. We were asked to come there because a gentleman's son was facing some charges that stemmed from a teenage party in Stafford County. At this party, there was alcohol, and some teenagers were fighting, arguing, and a young man took a gun and fired off some shots in the air. There was a young lady, her name, I don't know if I should say her name, but there was a young lady there who...
Is it a young lady or a woman? A young woman? Or
young woman.
A young woman?
Yes, a young woman there, and she came across some gang detectives that night at the party, and they stopped her and asked her some questions. Well, she gave them some names, and these names, one of them was my son's name, one was my nephew's name, and one of their friends. Well, they had to go to court, and they had a preliminary hearing, and she was a star witness at the preliminary hearing, saying things like they were false flagging and gang terminology, and from that preliminary hearing it went to the next level because of her testimony. Well, a couple days go by from the preliminary hearing, and my nephew Johnny tells his mother, Shannon wants to talk to you because she wanted to let you know that she was told to lie on the witness stand against the boys so that it could go to the next level. And the people that asked her to lie were the Commonwealth Attorney, Jim Peterson, and the gang detective, Sarah Montgomery. Well, my sister says, do you think that she'll meet with me? And he said, she wants to meet with you. So my sister set up a time and a place to meet with her after talking to her on the phone. I went with my sister that day, and we met with Miss Shannon Jackson, and we videotaped her and her conversation that she was told to say the things like false flagging and gang stuff, and these boys are part of a gang called the Goon Squad and what have you. Well, we have all this on video. So the gentleman that asked us to come to court on June 29th, 2011, asked us to bring that video so that he can present it to clear his son's name. Well, we brought that video that day, and we went inside the courthouse, and we were looking for him because he was supposed to meet us there. We couldn't find him. So we went into one of the courtrooms, and they have these little side rooms where, you know, you can sit and talk to the counselor or whatever, you know, it's a private little setting. Well, in one of those rooms, I could hear voices, so I'm a little nosy sometimes. So I stood there and I listened through the door, and I could hear a male voice saying, well, you know, if your son would cooperate with us and say what we want him to say, we will make sure that no charges come against him in all 3 counties for anything that we are trying to prosecute the Goon Squad on. So, that being said, me and my sister, we went over and we sat on the bench outside the courtroom and waited for them to come out because we knew that they were in that room. So, when they all came out, Mr. Fletcher, the one that asked us to come, looked like he'd seen a ghost, you know, and, you know, the color came out of him. He looked like he was guilty or, you know, did something wrong for some reason. Well, he comes over and he says, did you guys bring the video? My sister says, I don't know, maybe, you know, we might be able to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it here, kind of thing. And he goes walking away, and about 5 minutes goes by. Mr. Peterson, who's the Commonwealth attorney who's prosecuting these boys, comes up to my sister and calls her by name and says, "Sherry, what are you doing here?" And she said, "I was asked to come here to bring something for somebody." "What are you bringing?" She said, "I just was asked to bring something for somebody." Well, he walks away, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, "Sherry, I don't like the way this is feeling." She's like, "Me neither. We should get out of here." As soon as that was said, Mr. Peterson again comes up and says, "Sherry, do you have a video for me?" She says, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "Do you have video on your person?" She said, "No, I do not." And he said, "Where is the video?" And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So he walks over to the front of the courthouse where the security cameras are and the officers are, and they're looking our way. And that was our cue. We better get out of here. So we decided to leave. We go outside right in front of the court complex, and Mr. Fletcher says, hey, you know, "Sherry, are you going to give me that video?" She says, "I don't know what you're talking about." Well, at this point, I took the video and I hid it in my stomach area, you know, and covered it up really good. And she said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he said, "Okay." And her son, Raymond, which is my nephew, he's 15 years old at this time, he's like, "Mom, there's a lot of police officers out here in the parking lot, and they're looking for a vehicle." You know, and Sherry's like, "Belinda, I think they're looking for the car that we came in to try to find this videotape." And I'm like, "You think?" She said, "Yeah." And so we walked up to an officer that was standing there, and we asked him, you know, if he was looking for something, and he wanted to know what vehicle we came in. And I said, "For what? You know, we don't have to tell you what vehicle we came in." And he said, "Well, because you have evidence in your car." "We don't have any evidence in our car." You know, and so they're adamant in following us, just following us. We're walking and they're following us, and you know, Sherry says, "You know what? I saw Antonio's attorney in the courthouse. I'm going to go up and I'm going to get his attorney and see what advice he has for us." So she went back into the courtroom. While she was in there, my nephew and I were walking around, and I decided to call my mother and tell my mother what was going on. And she's telling me, "Keep me on the phone. Keep me on the phone. Do not hang up the phone." And I'm like, "Okay, Mom," you know. So Mom's on the phone. Sherry comes back out. She brings Mr. Ilovich, who is my nephew Antonio's attorney at the time. He said, "This is ridiculous. Come on, let's go to the car." So as we're walking down the steps to go into the parking lot, Mr. Peterson jumps over the rail and is in the parking lot. This is the prosecuting attorney. There's him. It's him and I'd say about 4 other uniformed officers. Then you have the gang task force, who consisted of Mr. Jay Lay and Sarah Montgomery, also in the parking lot. And they're all standing against this car that I'm not sure what the make and model of the car is exactly, but it had a rag top on it, and it had rims, like, you know, like rims, like, you know, high profile.
Gang rims.
Yeah, you know, gang rims or whatever you want to call them, you know. And they're all standing around this car like this car was going to be my car. And Mr. Ilovich says to Mr. Peterson, is there something going on? Do you want these girls for something? And he said, "Are these your clients?" And he said, "No, they're not, but I represent her son." He said, "Then you need to stay out of it, mind your own business." And Mr. Ilovich just shook his head and he said, "Go ahead, girls, go to the car." So we walk over to the car, which is a Ford Mustang, blue in color, no rims. And I go to open, you know, put the key in the, not the ignition, but the door lock, and lift the handle. Well, at that point, guns are drawn. And we are told to step away from the vehicle with guns drawn on us. So we say, "Okay," you know. And my mom, I could hear my mom yelling. She's freaking out on the phone. And, you know, I said, what are we, you know, what's going on? "You have evidence in that car." I said, "I don't have any evidence in that car." He said, "Well, you can't leave in that car. I'm obtaining a search warrant." And I said, "A search warrant?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "So we can't leave?" He said, "Oh, you're free to leave. There's a Fred bus right there. You can, you're free to get on the bus at any time, but you're not leaving in that vehicle. So, at this point, I'm like, oh my God, we just had guns pulled on us, and, he says we're not free to leave. We're free to leave, but we can't go in the vehicle that we came in. Something's not right. So I said, what are you getting a search warrant for? I told you there's evidence in that. And I said, well, you can search my car. You can search my car. Search it. There's no evidence in the car. Search my car. He said, are you giving me permission to search? And I said, I don't have any choice. And so they searched my vehicle. They did not find a videotape that they were looking for. But my computer was in the car, and they opened up my computer, and there in the disk drive, there was a disk in there, and they took that disk, but it said on the disk what it was, so they knew that wasn't what they were looking for, and they took that into their custody. And after the search was over, the officer, Detective Montgomery, she's the gang detective, wanted to ask us questions. So we let her ask us some questions, and I told her that, we didn't know what he's searching for. He's not going to find it in there. We don't have anything. She said, do you mind if I look in your purse? And I said, sure. And I opened up my purse and closed my purse, and it wasn't in there. And they ran my license to make sure that I guess I could drive, which I could. And then that was the end of it, and they left, and we were allowed to leave. After that happened, however, I called the police department to get a police report of what just took place. Well, there's no police report. No police report. There's an incident number, but no police report. So this was my first meeting with Mr. Jim Peterson before the October 6th thing happened to me. 3 weeks ago, that same attorney that was in the parking lot called my sister into his office, and he gave us some papers, and lo and behold, there's a police report of what happened on June 29th, 2011 at the hands of Mr. Peterson, who orchestrated it all. He is awful. I don't know what words to give him. I do know that with everything that's going on, I pray for him. I pray for them all, but he is out. He's got it out for my family, and he won't stop at anything.
What city is he in?
Stafford, Virginia.
How far is that from here?
From here, about 35, 40 minutes away from here. Yeah. The Devil's Courthouse.
Well, he's certainly a person I'd like to meet up with.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
That was a great addition.
Yeah.